So the Baltimore Ravens aren't done yet, and we know exactly what position the Baltimore Ravens are targeting in free agency. Eric Decosta just talked about how he wants to add some key players to the roster before training camp starts. Plus, we got a breakdown on new speedy wide receiver and punt returner LeJontay Wester out of Colorado. Have the Ravens finally fixed their punt returner and kick returner issue? We got top remaining free agents that the Baltimore Ravens can pursue. Plus, Eric Decosta talks about Mark Andrews and more, man. So welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy, Noah, here with For the Flock, as always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Baltimore Ravens today. And I got to tell you, so we checked out some of the analytics from some recent videos, and one of the recent videos, 61% of our watch time came from non-subscribers, and a lot of times people don't even know they're not subscribed because the YouTube algorithm will just keep feeding them the video. So if you haven't hit that subscribe and notification bell on, go ahead and hit it real quick so you can stay up to date on all of your Ravens news and content. We are pretty close to 50,000 subscribers. Let's go ahead and hit that before the season starts, man. Thank you for being part of the For the Flock family. Let's dive into the content. At number 1, Eric Decosta says they're going to make some moves, add some more free agents before training camp starts.
I think this team is really poised, and we're strong at most position groups now. There's a couple things we want to do between now and probably when we break, before camp. A couple additions, maybe a couple signings, a couple things we can do to make our team better. But, I think in the short term this year, we are, positioned extremely well. Now, I think looking out, we've got some players that we want to extend, and we're excited about it. And I think the team looks strong, but it never ends. This is a competitive business, and if you ever get to the point where you think you're set, you're going to fail. So for us, it's all about challenging ourselves, looking at the short term, challenges associated with that, but also the long term. What do we have to accomplish to make the long term look better?
And I got to show you some key facts here that tell us exactly what the Baltimore Ravens are going to do. Plus, a little bit of a conspiracy theory that we got. So first of all, if you guys can remember, the Baltimore Ravens tried to pursue defensive end Calais Campbell during the season last year to reinforce their defensive line. Campbell both as a run defender and an interior pass rusher. However, the Dolphins head coach said, hey, we don't know if we might make the playoffs. Let's not get rid of him because he's such a great culture guy, a leader in this locker room. So the Ravens ultimately didn't get Campbell. And then after the season was over, Calais Campbell was a free agent, and the Baltimore Ravens were pursuing him. He was mulling over some offers, returning to back home where it all started in Arizona, going back to Miami. He was considering a deal with the Ravens, returning back to Baltimore. He ultimately went back to Arizona. Point is, the Baltimore Ravens are pursuing a free agent defensive lineman, especially after Michael Pierce just retired, and he was a huge part of the defensive line. We also don't know what's going on with defensive end Brent Urban, who's been a solid rotation piece on the defensive front. So the Ravens have some holes to fill on that defensive line. We talked about this in a recent video, but if, Travis Jones were to go down with an injury, he's the starting nose tackle right now, your backup would be an undrafted free agent. You don't have a true, run-stuffing nose tackle one tech on the roster right now that's not an undrafted free agent. So you need some depth there, and you need some more depth along specifically run defenders. You got Matabike, you got Travis Jones, you got the rookie you just drafted, Aeneas Peebles, who is really known for his pass rush prowess as an interior pass rusher, but you need some more run stuffers in there so you don't get bullied late in those seasons, when you're in Buffalo in January, or you're, playing a cold weather game in Kansas City, whatever it is, man, you need that defensive going against the Eagles, against that stout offensive line with Saquon Barkley, right? You need to be able to stop the run. There are some guys available. We'll talk about all positions, and then we'll kind of hone in on the defensive line as far as free agents. The Ravens want to wait till after June, so that way they don't have their compensatory picks taken away from them, because they lost Brandon Stevens and Patrick McCarry. Eric Decosta said they'll probably get 2 fifth-round picks in next year's draft for losing those free agents. If they were to sign someone, a notable veteran, it could offset those comp picks that are going to come back to them. But if they wait till after June, they'll be good to go. Here's some key free agents that are still available. In the edge department, Zadarius Smith. I would not mind a reunion there. Matt Judon, same thing. Von Miller. We also got cornerbacks, some guys available if the Ravens wanted to add more veteran depth there. James Bradbury, Emmanuel Mosley and C.J. Henderson, just to name a few. There's a notable guard out there still if the Ravens wanted to go that route at left guard or right guard, Brendan Scherf. Linebacker, C.J. Mosley. If the Ravens really want to go and shore up that run defense, man, this guy is a true run-stuffing linebacker and would be fun next to Roquan Smith, and a reunion would be welcomed here in Baltimore. In my opinion, I think C.J. Mosley would be a great fit. C.J. Mosley, especially on first and second down, next to Roquan Smith, could be a lot of fun. There's some key defensive linemen here, okay? All right, DeMarcus Walker, he's not a huge guy, but he is 6'4", 280 pounds, and he is a really good interior pass rusher. He lines up on passing downs, over the center, over the guard, over the tackle. He's all over the place on those pass rushing downs, 5-tech, 3-tech. He's got size and strength, and he's got some good swim moves to get past these interior offensive linemen on those rushes. He's got 26.5 sacks in his career, has played for Chicago, has also played for Tennessee, where he had 7 sacks a few years ago. Defensive tackle, Montravius Adams was a backup nose tackle for Pittsburgh. However, before that, he did start. He's 6'4", 303 pounds, recently released by Pittsburgh. And then defensive tackle Jonathan Bullard from the Vikings, free agent, 6'3", 290 pounds. There's a couple other older guys as well, and check this out. At number 2, Eric Decosta said that part of the draft, you guys remember? During the draft, the Ravens traded picks 136 and 183 for 141 and 178. So they basically, it was like equal value on the pick selection chart, and they basically moved back 5 spots and then moved up 5 spots in another round. Exactly equal trade. Eric Decosta was asked about that. He said, hey, we needed a timeout. They weren't ready to make their pick apparently, and they were asked, like, did a guy go off right before you? Did your guy get selected and you needed to kind of recalibrate or what? And he was like, oh, a lot of things happened during the draft, but I think that's what happened. If you go back and look at the previous picks, right before the Baltimore Ravens were about to pick, a defensive tackle out of South Carolina, Tonka Hemingway, was selected, and a 6'3", 285 defensive tackle. The Ravens needed to add some more depth there in that class. They would ultimately trade back and then end up grabbing Aeneas Peebles. But were the Baltimore Ravens eyeing up Hemingway there? Well, we may never know. At number 3, Eric Decosta also opened up on Mark Andrews. There's a lot of trade speculation going on with Mark all throughout the offseason. The Ravens were open for business, because Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar, all 3 tight ends on the roster right now, are going to be free agents at the same time in 2026. We know how good Isaiah Likely is, how special he is, the rapport that's been growing with Lamar Jackson, and how he's about 5 years younger than Mark Andrews. So if you're going to pay a guy, the Ravens would probably go with a younger prospect who has not gotten a second deal with the Ravens yet, as opposed to Mark Andrews, who has gotten paid by the Ravens and is getting older. Eric Decosta entertained trade offers, but ultimately, when he was asked about this, to sum up how I perceived his response, I would say that he basically said, other teams didn't value him as much as we do. He said, our best chance of winning a Super Bowl is with Mark Andrews on the team. It sounds like they were willing to part ways with the right offer, but the right offer never came in, and they weren't going to just part ways with him for nothing, because they really value Mark and they think he's a great player and a great leader. At number 4, one issue for the Ravens last year, and they were looking high and low, they were looking for a punt returner or kick returner. And I was honestly disappointed with the Ravens last year because with the new kickoff return rules last year, and with John Harbaugh's special team prowess, he was a special teams coordinator before being a head coach. I'm thinking the Ravens are going to crush this thing. I was thinking, man, they're going to be one of the best punt and kick return teams in the NFL, but they just really weren't that good. Their special teams as a whole was below average on some of the scoring metrics, and the Ravens were constantly looking for a guy. They even signed Desmond King off the streets before he fumbled in a game, and they went away from him. But Ajante Wester was one of the best kick return and punt return specialists in this year's draft. He's a speedy smaller receiver, but also had over 900 yards last season with the Buffaloes with Colorado, right? And has made some really clutch plays, 10 touchdowns also. So college wide receiver production, and then also a guy that is probably penciled in to be the starting returner if the season were to start today. So the Baltimore Ravens made it clear they're looking to add some more guys on the roster. The Ravens are pretty deep at certain positions right now. They got a lot of competition on the offensive line, bringing in 3 offensive linemen in the draft. Cornerback room is pretty full right now with 2 draft picks just coming in at corner, plus Jalen Armour-Davis and TJ Tampa from some previous drafts. The free agent addition of Chidobe Awuzie, Marlon Humphrey. We also have Nate Wiggins, first-round selection from last year. So we got some guys in the corner room. It's looking pretty deep there. They could probably add another linebacker, another defensive lineman. Maybe they bring in some more competition for kicker to compete with a rookie if they ultimately part ways with Justin Tucker. But let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Out of these free agents we listed, who, or if there's any other guys, who do you want to bring in here to be a Baltimore Raven to help the Ravens pursue a championship this upcoming season, man? Smash the like button if you got any value out of today's content. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.